This week I learned that tree pollen still does not mess around. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update. I know I'm a little late this week, guys. As I kind of alluded to there, Pollen is basically my nemesis. It doesn't play around. I had a little bit of an allergy attack the last couple of days, so I wasn't able to get things out as planned because basically I was coming home from work and I was taking some allergy medicine, and I'm a complete lightweight when it comes to meds. It completely knocked me out. So I've been having the real bad thing with the eyes, the sneezing, the coughing, all the congestion. It's been awful. It's been awful. But I felt like I'm starting to come out of it now, which is great because I've got a long conversation with my patrons this afternoon. But guys, exciting week, I think, because it was a little bit of mop-up duty we're going to kind of talk about for the rest of 2022. Let's begin, like usual, guys, talking about what am I reading. Like I said, it was kind of mop-up duty. I don't want to spill my coffee here. And I had several books that were kind of ongoing that I planned to finish in December, and I didn't get a chance to. New Year's Day, I did finish Ashes of Man by Mr. Rocchio. Kind of the same stuff I talked about last week. He did really stick the landing really, really well at the end, though. And he did something in here that I continue to be like, Christopher, what is wrong with you? In the best way that I was like texting him in real time as it was going on, telling him, I can't believe you did this. But he continues to keep me on the edge of my seat, not knowing ever what's going to happen in his books. And it's exciting times because it's, again, as I say at the end of every one of his books since book number 2, I say I have no idea where he's going next. And that's what kind of keeps that whole saga kind of exciting, is that you have no idea what he's going to do next. But very excited for what's to come in that. And very, very upset with some decisions that he made, which if you know, you know. Next up, I did finish the Icewind Dale trilogy, which was with the Halfling's Gem. So Drizzt, I am 2 trilogies in now, and I am still loving it. Something about this, I liked a lot of it. I liked a ton. I felt like he stuck the landing a lot better than I felt like he did with Sojourn at the end of Dark Elf. But with this one, there were some things, there were some moments, some that you were anticipating, some matchups you were waiting to see. Let's just say you're waiting for, a big battle between 2 specific characters, and it happens. And I feel like it's satisfying, but the resolution is kind of kind of feel like that. There were some kind of things that, I'm going to say, I think that one of my problems I'm going to have with this, and I have this problem with a lot of old school, traditional, simplistic fantasy, as it's called, is there's a lot of fake out deaths, and I'm not liking that. That's something that I'm like, I don't know. If you're going to kill a character, have the balls to kill them. But what I always say in these series, no body, no death. That's always a safe rule to go by. But but other than that, I'm loving all of it. Guinevere has some amazing moments in this book, kind of the ones I've been waiting for her to make, the whole series. But just awesome times. I love the group that he's put together with Drizzt in this story now, and I'm hoping that it continues into the next trilogy, because it is more than just the Legend of Drizzt, but all those side characters around that make up his family, as it were, really great characters that I want to learn more and more about, and I'm hoping that he does do that as I continue into Legacy of the Drow later on this year. So it is the new year, guys. The read-along did start on January the 1st for Red Rising, our Red Rising reread, as I like to call it. Lots of good feedback on this, because I was actually kind of worried, because when I read book 1, I was kind of on it the first time. It wasn't exactly something I was like, I'm itching to pick up book 2 kind of thing. So I went into it with a certain set of expectations, and it didn't meet those. And I think that kind of brought it down a little bit for me. And I always said I felt like going back to it in a reread, knowing where these characters end up, after the 5 books that are currently out, would be a good thing. And I was right. I had a lot more fun this time with this book, and lots of things I'm like, oh, I see this. Lots of things that I thought were just kind of like Deus Ex Machina are actually telegraphed quite well if you're looking for them this go around. So I still have the problem of it being first-person perspective, and Pierce Brown does try to pull the aha, gotcha kind of thing, which is hard to do when you're in the head of your protagonist. But I do feel like this time I can explain that away because of this or that, or I don't really think that Darrow's as much of a Gary Stu as I said the first time. He did make several mistakes in this book that I didn't really recall. So I do think revisiting was really great, but I'm excited that the feedback from the people that are reading it for the first time, really, really excited. They've really liked it. So I'm like, oh man, this is great. You guys have no idea how amazing this series is going to be for you now. You have no idea how much the series is going to grab you if you really like this book, because it only gets better. And I think it's unanimous amongst the fandom. Now, if you're wanting more of what's in this book, I'm not sure you're going to quite get that, because I do think the series completely changes after this, but the same style is there, the same breakneck pace, the same awesome character interactions, the same incredible dialogue. The dialogue is so good that he puts in this story that you guys have no idea what you're in for. You're going to love it. It's going to be your next favorite series, I think. And by the way, I did finish that this week. So yeah, I did finish both those books, and I did actually finish one more, which was not really a novella, but The Willful Princess and The Piebald Prince. It was within the world of Realm of the Elderlings. Now, everybody told me to read this after Live Ship Traders, but I think you can read it after the Farseer trilogy, I think, because really it is an explanation of why the wit is looked down upon. It is really that story. And it's really good. The way I described this was cozy, because it was a quick, 2-sitting read. You could probably do it one easily, but it has 2 parts. There's a good breaking point, and I broke it between those 2. But yeah, it's one of those where I just feel like she just sat down one night, had an idea, and she said, hey, let me get this on paper. And it's really good. It's really good. Now, it still has all those messed up games that the nobles at Buckkeep like to play. It has all that stuff. But very, very fun to read, very easy to read, and one of those where I was able to slip back into Buckkeep, the Six Duchies, really, really easily, and had a great time with it. And there was some things in there that I'm like, that actually explains some stuff. So I'm curious to see how this plays into Tawny Man, because lots of people said it will service you to read that story before you read the Tawny Man trilogy. So we will find out. But yeah, I finished all those this week. So it looks like a lot, guys, but like I said, Ashes of Man, I had literally like 4 chapters left. Halfling's Gem, you can read a Drist book in a couple of sittings, not a big deal. And same with the first Red Rising book. You can just fly through that book. That's why almost everyone who started reading that on the first is done already, because it's really, you can just fly through Pierce Brown books. They're so good, guys. But there's still time for you guys to join us. We're only doing 1 book per month on that Red Rising read-along. Hope you will pick it up. Now, how about, what am I going to read? Now, I've almost finished with Sea of Monsters with my kid. We got this much left. Like I said, I feel like we're just reading a chapter or 2 per night, because he'll be like, oh yeah, I'm wide awake. We're going to read 5 chapters tonight. And, you lay down in bed and you realize, hey, I'm more tired than I thought I was. That's how it is with kids. So it's taking about what you would expect with that. But he's excited to finish. He already has his theories for the ending. And we're having a great time. It's, again, I can't just keep regurgitating what I'm saying every week. But we're having a great time with Percy Jackson. He's already speculating. He's already looked at the book titles for book 3, 4, and 5 and already speculating where the stories went. He checked out the illustrated comic book version of Sea of Monsters and The Lightning Thief from his school library for a reread, as he calls it. So yeah, he's totally addicted at this point, and I think it's great. I think it's just really, really great. But as for what I'm going to read outside of that, guys, I did start Fool's Errand this morning. Now, I only read the first chapter, but I'm here to tell you that first chapter was spectacular. It was one of those things where I didn't realize how much I missed these characters until I start reading about them. And there's an interaction between 2 of my favorite characters in that original trilogy, and immediately I'm feeling it pulling on the heartstrings. I'm like, how does she do this? I didn't even know I was missing these characters until I read some of the stuff. And it really is just 2 of the main characters in the series opening their hearts to each other, and it's really, really good. And I'm just saying, the first 25 pages of this book, and I'm already like, oh, wow, okay. So, yeah, if I thought I was going to get through this series without having some kind of fills, because, I joke about it. All anybody talks about when you want to talk about a Robin Hobb book is, oh, yeah, make you cry. And I'm like, come on, man. Can you tell me something besides the book makes you cry? I can see why. I can tell there's some things that are already being telegraphed, maybe, or maybe I'm just looking for those now because everybody tells me stuff like that. But I'm very excited for what's to come with that. I'm reading that with Philip. I'm sure Philip's probably already done with it at this point. He started a couple days ago, and he flies through these things really, really fast. But yeah, I do have something going on this afternoon, but this evening, that's really the only plan I have is to read on Fool's Errand, and I'm excited to be back in that world, be back up in the Six Duchies, and see how things are going. So it's already some changes. A couple of things I had to be like, wait, who is this character? That's going to happen a little bit because I read the Farseer trilogy 2 years ago. So there's going to be a little bit of that. But as far as, initial impressions go, I think I'm up for what she is selling here because, again, a master at character work, I think. And outside of that, that's probably, it's a big boy. It's not as big as most Robin Hobb books. I think 584 pages is pretty light compared to Live Ship, where they're all 800, 900 plus. But for her, I think that's a pretty light book. But I've had so many people tell me, I don't know how you're going to feel about that one. I'm like, you guys tell me about every single Robin. Ever since I didn't like Assassin's Quest, every time I talk about reading Robin Hobb, I don't know how you're going to feel about that book. And I figure I'll get that the rest of the way, probably. But so far, again, for me, characters first. and she seems to be great at that. So I am really, really digging it. As far as anything else, I mean, that'd probably be all I really work on this week. But if I say I do get to a point where I'm like, okay, I need a break from fantasy for just a minute, my standalone for this month is Run by Blake Crouch. And if you've read any Blake Crouch, you know it's probably the only thing up here that reads faster than a Drizzt or a Red Rising book is a Blake Crouch book, because they are the very essence of a page turner. And just going off of the synopsis for this one alone, it sounds like, okay, a very competent writer like Blake Crouch basically writing The Purge. That sounds like a great plan. So I'm excited to get to it. Besides Abandon, I've absolutely loved every book of his that I've read. And I didn't hate Abandon, I just thought it was okay, because I think the bar had been set a little high. But we're doing them backwards like this. I knew that would kind of happen, but I'm excited for my next one, because I am a Crouch potato at this point. That's all I got, guys. As for this week on the channel, I did do a couple things. We wrapped up the month of December. Very exciting month. I had some interesting things happen on the channel. Like I said, it was really, really weird, because as a content creator, you do want to see your views and your watch time going up. That's the important part. But it's so weird that I have such great numbers for those things, but yet the subscriber counts just keep going down month after month. So I'm not sure if the YouTube overlords or if they're purging, or if they're doing something. I don't really know. It's just really, really weird when you have a really, really successful month views wise, and yet you actually lose subscribers. But I don't know. It is what it is, but I'm happy with where the channel's at right now. So when I wrapped up December, that was obviously the thing that you focus on, is the channel growth and stuff. But my book of the month, obviously, is always a big one. And the book of the month actually surprised even me. And I was really, really happy to announce it, though, because I did get a lot of positive feedback on it. People are quite happy that I enjoyed that book, and I did enjoy it. I also did a little off-the-wall one, which was my 10 favorite coming-of-age stories. And I thought this would be a much more interesting topic. It's been kind of, I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of been the response I've kind of gotten in the comments, because I think people thought I was going to list a lot more series. And I said that as I tried to stick to just, kind of standalone books, because if not, I'm just going to name every fantasy series that has a coming-of-age story in it. I didn't want to do that. So with that one, it was just a lot of books. I mean, we're talking all the way from like the 1850s to, the late 1990s is where kind of my range was there. So that's why I kind of try to spread it around, kind of talk about some stuff that is other than just fantasy, So I thought it was a good time. I had a lot of fun kind of reminiscing on that. There are already a couple I've thought of that I would have put on there if I thought about it a little more, because I did just get out a pen and paper, and just the first 10 that I really, really thought of that are all really in that wheelhouse. Those are the 10 that I went with. But some very interesting responses in the comments, and it sparked a lot of, is that a coming-of-age story or not, kind of thing. That's always the kind of conversation you get with something like that. But those are 10 books that I do love and would recommend anyone of that age pick up for the first time, or now. It still works now. And then I made true to my promise to Andrew over at Andrew's Wizardly Reads to do the Led Zeppelin tag. And yes, I did attempt to sing at the beginning of that. But if you are a Led Zeppelin fan or not, if you know anything about Led Zeppelin, you know that Robert Plant, he's pretty much the only one that can sing like Robert Plant. So, I don't feel bad about it anywhere. Besides, Andrew hit the high notes in his video. I was like, no, I'm going to climb the ladder a little bit, but I'm not going to go straight for Immigrant Song. But you know what? Andrew's a great guy, and I wanted to make true to him that I promised that I made that I would do that once my schedule calmed down a little bit. I'm always kind of iffy about tags. I'm not really wild about them, because I don't think my audience likes them very much, just judging off of how few of you watch them. But I get that, because I know a lot of people kind of wore out tags there for a while. With me, if it's a topic I'm really, really into, I'll do that. So anytime I can mix Led Zeppelin and books, I know I'm going to be able to do that. But I really feel like that people don't understand about tag videos is that you're not really even talking about what the tag is. All they are is just like topics. Or, for example, this one just uses Led Zeppelin song titles, and then you kind of apply them to that, and you aren't really talking about Led Zeppelin. You aren't really even talking about anything weird. You're just talking about different book series, and that's what I kind of do in that video. So I appreciate it, Andrew. It was really, really fun. I had a fun time. Anytime I can talk about Led Zeppelin, even in just, hey, the song titles, I'm going to do that. And I'm looking forward to those people that I tagged. And Alex, I apologize for assuming that you were a young whippersnapper and you did not like Led Zeppelin. So that's on me. I do apologize. So I look forward to him and Philip and hopefully Alan doing that tag, because I'd love to see the responses to some of those questions. As for some next week plans, guys, there are a couple of things here. I'll be doing my 2022 wrap-up. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to think that sounds just like the December wrap-up that I just did, but the full year wrap-up, I try to do a little differently. I look at every single one of my books of the month and kind of reminisce about that and say, hey, of these 12, which one would I pick? That kind of thing. I mean, obviously, it's really easy. I'm probably going to pick, what one for my best book of the year, obviously. But I'll try to do something, change it up a little bit. Talk about my most read authors, most popular videos, those kinds of things. So I do try to make it feel a little different than the monthly wrap-ups, but it is something I feel like should do because I do like to look at things overall for the year. What were my 5 most popular videos for the year and things like that. That's a lot of fun for me. And then some ones, maybe just some of my personal favorites for the year that maybe didn't hit some of those highs with you guys as they did for me. It's always a lot of fun for me. And then the last video for 2022, guys, will be my book haul for December. Obviously, with Christmas, lots of new things found its way into this little library here, and I'm going to talk about those and tell you wonderful, wonderful people, thank you so much for what you did send me in December. And then I do have a review plan. Now, I was going to do my first Red Rising re-review next week. But then I decided, you know what? Not everyone finished it in a week. Let's give it maybe another week to breathe a little bit. Now, with the re-review, like I said, I have reviewed those books on the channel, but it was before I really had a format or anything. It was just, actually, it's kind of a mess. Hasn't aged very well, so I felt like this is one of my favorite ongoing series out there, period. So I like to take my time with it. So I'm going to actually do that the justice it deserves, but I'm going to be doing it a little later because, like I said, later in the month, I want to make sure I'm giving everybody an opportunity to kind of finish the book before I talk about it. So I decided I shall be doing a Drizzt review. Now, what I decided with Drizzt is I'm going to review those by arc or by trilogy or quadrilogy, however you want to put it. So I'm going to be doing the Icewind Dale trilogy as a review because I think that there's lots of things to talk about with that thing there. So I did talk about Dark Elf, like this before, and that went over pretty well. I just feel like the Drizzt army is very, very popular, and there's not a lot of Drizzt content out there on book 2, and that really, really surprises me because there's so many people that love this character and this world. So I feel like, hey, why not? I would love to talk about it because apparently there are a lot of people really just having a huge nostalgia kick after hearing how much I am enjoying those books. And so I don't mind talking about it at length. Lastly, Friday night, guys, Friday the 13th, we will be doing our first official panel of the Elderlings. Now, this is going to be a spoiler discussion for the Farseer trilogy. So if you haven't finished the Farseer trilogy yet, say, hey, you know what? It'll always be there for you. You can go back to it later. But if you have finished the Farseer trilogy, I hope you will join us live. Drop in the comments, drop in the discussion. We'll be taking some of your questions and comments live during that. But we're just going to be talking about the Farseer trilogy as a whole, some of our favorite moments, some greatly debated moments, things like that. It should be a lot of fun. I don't know how long that's going to go. We're going to be talking about 3 books. There are 5 of us. And none of us, as Jake always said, are known for our quickness when it comes to discussing these things. And I can't wait to pick the brains of those other 4 because I respect their opinions a great deal, especially when it comes to Rob and Hob. And I can't wait to discuss it. And I hope you will join us. And before I go, guys, there are a couple of TV and movie talk things. In the live stream, I got lots of questions about The Last of Us on HBO and my optimism level for it. And I said I wasn't really optimistic about it, and people wanted to know why. Was it because Neil Druckmann's involved and things like that? And it's just a whole conversation that can get really, really negative. With me, it wasn't really anyone that was involved, because I feel like HBO usually puts out quality content no matter what it is. Even if I disagree with the direction that they take, it's usually pretty quality stuff. So I'm not really worried about that. Me, it's just the history of video game adaptations. They don't usually go well. And I fear that with this, they're going to try to go too much to be a Walking Dead clone, and I don't want it to be a Walking Dead clone because I didn't get The Walking Dead out of that story. It was a story about Joel and Ellie, and I want it to be that, and I don't feel like the show is going to be about that. I fear that's not what it's going to be about. So I don't know. We'll see. I want to say I'm optimistic. With me, it's just I just don't trust video game adaptations. And we see all this stuff, all these news articles about how they're like, Neil Druckmann and the others involved are like, this is going to be extremely faithful to the video game, but every single day, it feels like there's a new article that comes out about, you'll be shocked at this big change that they're making to this character or this thing that they're making a big change to in the story to The Last of Us. Like, I thought you guys said you were saying very, very faithful, because every day there's a new article about this big change that you've made. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I want to hope for the best, expect the worst. That way I can't be disappointed like I was with Last of Us 2. Did you guys hear that Netflix is maybe planning to change The Witcher even more than they already have? And by now we all know the story about Henry Cavill leaving due to how unfaithful they're going with the source material. And the fact that, the hubris of this writing staff to just lose a bona fide movie star in your streaming series because you refuse to stay faithful to the source material is already just like, Jesus, what balls. But now I didn't watch it. And this is all conjecture on my behalf. I've heard people talk about this Blood Origin show, and they talk about something that happens at the end of that show, which kind of signifies that they're going to, instead of just pretending that Liam Hemsworth is just Geralt, he's the same Geralt that Henry Cavill was, and I'm not even going to barge into it. Apparently they're thinking about changing it looks like. They're making it change something to it going all the way back to using time travel to change that Geralt and Ciri ever meet. And I was just like, wow, so you guys just don't give a shit about the source material at all. Like, you're not even going to try anymore. You're just going to kind of do your own thing. Well, I think they will be stunned when they see how much the ratings drop off after Henry Cavill leaves. And, then they'll do like usual. They'll attack the fans and the show will get canceled because that's what Netflix does. Netflix cancels everything. But with that, I feel like, you know what? Executive in charge, you guys let that get out of your hands. You should have stepped in and said, yo, we're going to lose our star power because you guys refuse to do anything like the source material. So that's on the executives. I can't blame the showrunners. Of course they want to do what they want to do. That's their whole creative method is they want to create something that is their own, not as someone else's. So they never really respected the source material. And it's obvious. It's obvious. And I'm not even married to the Witcher books, but I feel bad for people that really do adore these books. I feel like they could have had a really good adaptation here. And I felt like it started with good intentions and just slowly and slowly got more and more of we want to make it our own and just basically change everything. And it's just a shame. It really, really is a shame. As for cancellations, you guys hear 1899 got canceled. Now, I didn't watch it yet, so maybe I'm part of the problem here. That's one of the reasons it got canceled, because I hadn't watched it yet. It's one of those things where me and my wife were going to watch it together, because me and my wife watched Dark together. And this is from the creators of Dark. And we loved Dark. We loved it. So we wanted to watch it together, and the schedules never really lined up. And now that we hear that it got canceled, we don't think we'll ever watch it. And a lot of people are upset about it. It's like what I just said. This is on the executives of Netflix because they spend so much money creating these big, big shows, and then they let the showrunners just run wild and do whatever they want instead of holding them honest. So I think when you hire these people whose first instinct is, well, you can't just make a show for the fans. So if right off the bat you're saying you have no interest in pleasing the fans, I think that's a poor approach. Now, can you still be original? Absolutely. Do you have to insult the fans? No, you don't. And I feel like a lot of those are doing that. So they're spending so much crazy money on some of these big adaptations and stuff. And then when they fail, they're like, well, I can't justify spending this much money on this other show that isn't getting high viewership. So I can't blame Netflix for canceling something that people aren't watching, especially a show that didn't look cheap. And 1899 didn't look cheap. But it's a shame because I know those guys are long-form storytellers, and I have no doubt that their story would have been amazing by the end. And they already put out like a social media post saying like, thanks for the memories. So I don't think this is going to be picked up anywhere else. And some people are saying like, I hope someone else will pick it up. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. It feels like they've already moved on, and I'm pretty sure they've already told those actors to go ahead and look for work elsewhere. And it's really, really a shame. But you know what? That seems to be the way with Netflix. So I think that really they need to make some changes up top, because I think there's some poor decision making being made by the executive level at Netflix. But guys, that was pretty much my week. As for movies, TV, we finished The Hunger Games. I've resumed watching The 100. I know people have hot takes about that show. Maybe next week I'll have more time. I can talk about what I think about The 100, because I think it's an underrated show. It really is. But I understand that a lot of people, anytime you mention anything that was on the CW, they get really, really quick to say, what is wrong with you, you cretin? How can you watch that stuff? But guys, that was my week. I'd love to know what your week was like. What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you playing? Drop in the comments and let me know, and I will talk to you there.